Bang, that right there. That's the question you should have led with. 30 minutes ago, we could have avoided all this. Do you understand? Hey guys, John Doerr again with Two Marine Dads. Today's short, we're going to go over communication, how I feel it's it's a leadership trait or leadership quality. We're also going to talk about good examples of communication, bad examples of communication, and one example where I saw potential in somebody else and drug them across the proverbial communication finish line, kicking and screaming. Then we'll probably wrap it up with a couple of examples of how we've actually, by opening lines of communication, we've actually lended itself to being weaponized. So I'll give you a couple examples of what it's like to weaponize communication. So without further ado, we'll get into the video. Guys, listen, communication is a leadership quality. I think communication and leadership go hand in hand. I feel like there's a dichotomy there that you cannot break. So being an effective communicator, lends itself to adding to production, making your team more efficient, more effective. It lends itself to your team being more responsive to you, and wanting to, for lack of a better word, move mountains for you. So there's the potential there for just based on what you say and how you say it to effectuate, a positive thing to the bottom line, making more money or, helping you get out of there faster, that kind of thing. So, in terms of being a communicator, in a professional sense, yeah, you can make more money. But being a good communicator all around and being a good leader all around, can help you be a better husband, a better father, better lover, all the above. So, being a good communicator, goes way beyond the professional sense, into your everyday life. Just getting better deals at the car lot, stuff like this, it all goes back to communicating. So in the sense of leadership, I would say 90% of leadership 90% of communication rather is nonverbal. The words come out of your mouth, they enter the other person's ear, they get decoded by that other person, but those are just the words. Without tone or without body language, a lot of communication's missed, which is why it makes it so difficult sometimes to read emails. You don't know what the other person meant. I got an email from a gentleman at a pipe manufacturing company in all caps. And I first opened the email and went, oh my God, what'd I do to make this guy so mad that he's screaming at me? Every line he's yelling at me, because that's what all caps to me means. And then come to find out, that's just how he spoke. That's how he typed out all his emails to everybody, to include his boss. So, and then when I would forward his emails to others within our company, they would come back and go, what is the matter? Why is he so angry? And just, no, man, it's just with his eyesight or whatever. He liked to see caps, and that's how he read, and it made his life easier. Same thing goes, you look at the cell phone here, these guys have gone a long way to include emojis is what they're called, right? Into their text messages, because early on in my relationship with my wife, I'd answer a question and she'd be like, well, what's the matter? And I answered simple yes or no. I'm like, nothing's wrong. And I'd say nothing. And then she'd be like, that make it even worse. What do you mean nothing? So you'd go down this rabbit hole, and all it was there was no tone there. I'll give you an example. It could be like, and again, with gesticulation, body language, you can just be like, oh, get out of here. You could be talking to your boss. You could be talking to anybody. You'd be like, ah, man, get out of here. No big deal. Or you could be like, get out of here, and you said the same thing, but what did you change? You changed your gesticulation with your hands, your body language, your tone. So total different communication was created with these same exact words. So again, 90% of communication is body language and tone. So understand that, and again, building a relationship with the person that you're dealing with, also lends itself to being able to get away with saying certain things that you wouldn't otherwise get away with, to a stranger on the street, so to speak. So building the relationship is key. And again, that goes hand in hand with everything else we just talked about, and the final thing I would say is tact. You can get away with saying anything to anybody as long as you use tact. They tell us that in the Marine Corps. You can walk up to, 4-star general and be like, sir, your stars are crooked. But if you say it like that, you probably get demoted. But if you were to be like, sir, I don't know if you're aware, but, perhaps when you got out of the car, the seatbelt caught one of your stars and it doesn't exactly look straight. And, you want me to help you, I can adjust it for you or whatever, but make him aware, or make her aware. Versus if you walk up to that same person and be like, you're out of uniform, so like you communicate the same thing. You're going up the chain of command in that case, way up the chain of command in that example. But, if you say it correctly, that person will thank you. And, if they're unaware of it, put it in construction terms. If you've got a guy who is really good at running an excavator and you got him in a loader, so it was your boss who put it together, put the team together. You could walk up to your boss and be like, hey, this guy's really a great excavator hand. We got him in a loader. Why don't we make that change? Or you could walk up to him and be like, why the hell did you put this guy, in a loader when he should be in an excavator? What kind of an idiot does that? So, again, having tact to communicate the same thing, especially when you're talking to somebody who can affect your paycheck. So there's again, those are two examples of tact. I like to say, you put the monkey in the tree, you put the fish in the pond, and that it just, you can use that example. Hey, we got a fish trying to climb a tree here. Why don't we make this excavator, loader swap? So there's that. The other part of it, like a personal growth on my part, dealing with communication. I was told early on in my career, don't assume they don't know, assume that they know. Okay. And it came on the heels of me explaining my math when I was doing a takeoff on some plan sheets to somebody who was above me. And at the time, the person who told me was one of my contemporaries, and I respected him. He had a little bit more experience than I did. So I was like, well, hell, here I just came across condescending to this, upper management guy. And, and that wasn't my intent. So I went the rest, next 3-4 years going, okay, John, assume that they know, which is the complete wrong answer. You want to assume that they don't know. There's something called Jocko Willinks, if I'm saying his name right, brought it up in his book, Extreme Ownership. And he talks about, being the torture genius, where you have your point, no one else is doing what you asked. You know exactly what needs to happen, and everybody's off by 10 degrees. And, and it was you who failed to communicate it adequately. So you've got this genius, you got this whole plan in your head, but you didn't get it out of your mouth and into their minds in a manner that they understood. So the fault isn't with them, it's with you. So once that assumption kind of clicked with me, I'll say things now where, I'm afraid of being condescending. I don't want to be condescending. So I'll say things like, hey, I apologize if you know this already, however, and I'll start from square one. And usually a sentence like that, allows the other person to know that you're doing your best to communicate to them. So you're starting with square one, but then that gives them the opportunity to go, no, John, I already know that. And then we can, hurry the conversation along. Or it starts with, no, what'd you just say? So I've had a lot of that, whoa, start from square one again. Now run this through me again. Cause they're not seeing the same problem that you're seeing, cause you're already on step 7 and you're trying to show them what the problem is, and they're not seeing it because they haven't gone through steps 1 through 6, which you already have in your head, so understanding that you need to start on square one, and avoid being a torture genius, so to speak, really does help. And again, that's not just in the professional sense. That's the husband sense. That's the father sense. That's the big brother sense. That's that's everything, is being able to, communicate to your partner, period, whoever that may be. So I'll give you another example. I was blessed, I guess you would call it, to have some experience with the electrical contractors, big electrical contractors. And I've seen the problems that come along with putting in big electrical systems. The plans will say install a 2-inch conduit. Well, really you needed a 2.5-inch conduit because the person who made the cable didn't necessarily communicate that to the engineer. So I've seen issues where the wrong size conduit gets installed. And we were in Lake Mead, and I wasn't even in charge of the electrical. I was in charge of the pipe, but I had overheard people chit-chatting about it. And again, like I said, I've had a couple of years of experience dealing with and seeing the problems that arise with electrical. So I was like, hey, maybe I can lend myself to the conversation. So I asked, what's the problem? And right away I see that they had come up with a solution, and it was an effective solution. It worked. It did. It would have worked 100% hands down, but it was expensive, and it took a lot of man hours to create that solution, where they were going to go in and chop out concrete and rebar and then put it back in and then reform it and all this. I saw a solution where we could put in a sweep. We could get a bigger conduit, and then we could, pull the cable through it, no problem. It would have been within spec. It was within spec. It was within all the rules and regulations, of the electrical code, the whole bit. Like it was real simple. So I walk up and I see this, listen to the conversation, and I start to say what my solution is. And the guy who put it all together goes, "John, we already had a solution here. And you can just leave." And I went full Marine on him, and I said, "I'm going to go ahead and exhibit my right to freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, and I'll talk to whoever the hell I want to talk to," And then he didn't like that very much. So I knew in my head, I knew straight away, bang, John, all you got to do is say what it is, that the solution that you have, install the sweep, bore out the hole in the box, and we'll be done. It would take me longer to say it than it would to actually do, But this guy was always a torture genius. Never, just didn't understand why everybody was pissed off at him all the whole time. And I figured, kind of like, the Stamp Act wasn't what caused the Revolutionary War, but it was a nice, neat line in the sand to say enough to King George, right? This was my line in the sand. This was my Stamp Act, so to speak, with this guy. And I intentionally didn't tell him what the solution was the whole time, knowing I could end the conversation, but he would do him a disservice. So half hour goes by. I'm very animated about this. So is he. I'm quoting Die Hard. I'm telling him things like, if you knew half the stuff I knew, your fuzzy little head would explode, and, just all kinds of stuff like this, right? And after 30 minutes, I'm like, come on, figure it out. Ask me the question, ask me the question, ask me the question. It took him a half hour to come around to ask me the question he should have started with, which was, "John, what's your solution?" And that right there set the tone for the next half an hour. And then once he finally did, he's like, "So what is your solution?" And I went, bang, that right there. That's the question you should have led with. 30 minutes ago, we could have avoided all this. Do you understand? And he stopped, and like it was just like I jabbed him right in the fist, like bam, right in the chin, right? And it hit him like a ton of bricks. It's like, yeah, I could have. And so he asked me, and I drew it out for him, and in his credit, he was manned up, and he was like, "Yep, we're going to do it your way." And it wasn't about me being right or wrong. It was about how he communicated to not just me, to everybody in the office, and everybody wanted to choke this guy. And, after that, he would say, "Hey, John, what do you think?" And, and sometimes he didn't like what I had to say, we wouldn't do it. Sometimes he did, and we would, so it was, but not just with me. I would listen, and he would start doing it with other people too. He would ask them, other people who were just like nails down a chalkboard, they're just oil and water, didn't get along. All of a sudden, he was taking a different approach from within, and it really helped. He would start off the conversation with, "Well, what's your opinion, or what do you see?" Because again, somebody else might have a different perspective. And again, it goes back to communication, understanding what makes the other person tick. Sean Whalen likes to say that what the other person feels is on them, and he's right, 100% right. He is absolutely right. How they feel after you talk to them is on them, but it is incumbent on you, the communicator, to understand what makes that other person tick. Is it power? Is it always being right? Is it money? Is it schedule? Is it safety? Is it is it having the biggest and newest whiz bang piece of equipment, or is it just being heard and not having a solution? They just want to vent. Or maybe they're just having a bad day. Gauging that other person is key. Some might call that manipulative, but it's not. You're not trying to get one up on the other person. You're just trying to get your point across and finish your job. So you're not really being manipulative, but you do need to know it's not about what makes you tick. It's about what makes them tick. And it's that simple. Somebody who I really didn't care for all that much is the one who taught me that. And he's right. Guys, I'm going to wrap this thing up here with another example of how, good communication. We've opened up the communication line so much that we've actually gotten to a point where we've come full circle and kind of weaponized it. If you think of, if you guys, most notably, I'd say Matt Lauer, had a long history of mistreating women. And what's the other, Harvey Weinstein, same thing, mistreated women terribly. And there wasn't this anonymous thing where people could go report him, they were up the pinnacle of their careers or whatever, making all the money or whatever. And these gals were, subjected to their will, because there wasn't this, open line of communication. Now, over the last 10 years or so, that's become commonplace. Being able to walk into your HR department and say, hey, this guy's messed up. And being anonymous is kind of a big thing. That's awesome. But now you've gotten to a point where people are afraid to speak. I'll give you an example. I guess it was James Lindsay. He brings it up. I guess he's a professor at a college, and a very prestigious college. And he says, one of his faculty coworkers, rolled his eyes at one point in class and kind of used the words, "Well, just shoot me," like that, just expressing frustration. That's all it was. And a third party heard that, reported him to the dean, and now he's standing in front of the dean, and there are just reports and there's emails, and you've taken time out of this guy's schedule, and now you've quite frankly made him gun shy. Once bitten, twice shy. So it turned into something that was nothing more than an act of a vent for some frustration about the problem that was given to him. Turned into this, you're insensitive to people who are going to commit suicide or who are emotionally unstable, and you hate people with PTSD. It just turned into this nonsensical thing. I'll give you an example of one that actually happened to me. Was when I was in the Marine Corps. My corpsman was the only people in the Navy we actually respect. It's the truth. But my corpsman, he came to, he lived in our barracks. He stitched us up when we needed stitches. He made sure we got our shots, all that kind of stuff. He's a great guy. Ran with us the whole bit. He was a hard charger. Give you perspective. He's a African American fella, and I'm a Caucasian fella. So we're in medical, and I'm getting treated for whatever, getting my shots or whatever it was. I had to be there. He called me and said, "Come get your shots." Well, we were in the waiting room, and he's like, "Come here, boy," and that was it. That's all he said. And I got up and started walking towards him. So I get my medication or whatever it was. And then he promptly sits me back down and disappears for about 20, 30 minutes, comes back and goes with his jaw on the floor. I'm like, "Hey man, what happened?" And he goes, "I just got yelled at for calling you boy by somebody who was in the other room." And he's like, and apparently he's like, that's a racial epithet. And mind you, I was probably like 20 or 21 or something like that when this was happening. I'd gone my 20 years of my life and never knew that was a racial thing. And it is. I looked it up, and sure as poop smells, it is. But that's what my dad called me every day of my life. That's what my grandfather called me. I associated it with Tarzan, boy, Jane. I never in a million years would have associated it with KKK. And that's what it was. Those guys in KKK would use that to be derogatory towards black people. And which made it even more funny that he was African American talking to me, who I'm not African American. But anyway, that's the whole point. The whole point is somebody else, an outside party, heard a conversation he wasn't privy to, and all of a sudden it became a problem. All of a sudden, my corpsman's a racist, and which nothing could be further from the truth if you knew the guy. So anyway, I digress. But that's an example of how we've opened up the lines of communication so broadly that it can be weaponized. And now you say something like that, and it has to be dealt with. The command has to do something. Your management is forced to do something, because if they do nothing, they get sued. So it's, but understanding, understanding context and understanding what the impact to the other person will be when you do say certain things, or if you do feel the need to report somebody, is huge. So I'll sum it up there, guys. Please like and subscribe this video. If you I want to hear from you. If you don't like what I had to say, I want to hear it. If you do like what I had to say, I want to hear it. That really helps us build this channel and build our brand, and that's what we're trying to do. So again, guys, as always, Semper Fi.